Hello, welcome to another one of our videos. This is Davi speaking. My noble and dear brothers, it's been a while since I've seen anything from someone in mainstream media or politics. Aldo Rebelo said some impressive things, my brothers, about the possible victory of Molusco. I ask that you pay close attention, not to cause fear, panic, or disappointment, but so that you can be prepared if this happens, so that you can really understand Brazil's situation. He even gives examples, my brothers, that we haven't seen in a long time, right? We saw things like this back in the days of Dr. Eneas, Dr. Batista Vidal, and Adriano Benayon. But nowadays, you don't see anyone talking about it, and Aldo Rebelo told the truth on a podcast called TubaCast. It was almost 2 hours of live streaming, just 5 minutes short of 2 hours. I'll leave the link to the full live stream for you to watch. But first, I ask you to watch this highlight with me, which is one of the most interesting parts of this podcast. Okay? And it will really illustrate the situation we're living in and why. All right, family? Let's watch it together. Look, let's go. Let's watch it together. Vamos lá. Here.
It's the search for oil. And here we have oil and we spurn it.
Aldo, what I keep noticing is that this government spends a lot. It only increases spending month after month. And to make up for these expenses, it creates more taxes. So all the time Haddad comes or someone else from the government and says, look, that sector over there is making too much money. So let's see if we're going to come up with some kind of offset to take, how does it go? They always use this excuse to make a compensation. I don't see a way out. Until 2027, I don't see things getting better in Brazil.
Family, that business model he mentioned, right? No, that sector is making money, so let's tax it. Let's raise the tax. Like he did, for example, with imported clothes. People are buying a lot, so tax it. That's only possible because Brazil is a left-wing country. The mentality of the population is left-wing. The first thing you need to do to understand this is to forget about social media. I'm not saying you shouldn't access it, but you need to forget what you see there. Why? Because a lot of people see that conservatism is very big on social media. It's the majority. This gives the false impression that the same is true among the general public, but it's not. The TikTok generation, the short video generation, those people who just want quick things, don't want to bother with any topic, a 10-minute video, oh my God, let alone a documentary. This generation, my brother, they don't express themselves, they don't care about these topics, but when it's time for them to show up, they've already made up their minds. This one here, the left, takes care of me. The left feels sorry for me. To give you an idea of this Brazilian way of thinking, which really is leftist, a proposal was just made to lower the vehicle tax. And there are so many criticisms, people saying, no, this will only help those who have money. Only rich people pay vehicle tax on expensive cars. Poor people have old cars and don't pay vehicle tax. The government already supports them. There's nothing that needs to be lowered. So the same thing happens in all other sectors. Because we are a far left country. You need to understand that, okay? With that in mind, let's keep going. Because now is when things start to get serious. Let's go.
And if they win, whoever wins will have a bomb on their hands in 2027. What do you think will happen to Brazil in terms of fiscal and tax issues if Lula stays in power? Do Brazilians need to prepare themselves? What's your view?
Let's start with the current reality. What's the reality? The reality is that Brazil is broke. Brazil is broke. Economists used to say it would go broke in 2027. No, it already is. Want proof it's already broken? Brazil is suffering from administrative paralysis. The other day, there were 40 or 50 universities shut down.
Wow.
The armed forces no longer have money to carry out regular Air Force and Navy exercises. To get the planes to train, to fly. They don't. The Minister of Defense said that if Brazil is attacked, the best policy is to open the doors because we are not in a position to resist. You have paralysis across the agencies. All ministries, all of them, without exception, have had their resources frozen. A budget freeze is a legal and administrative term for freezing resources. Why? Because there is no money. You have the budget, but you don't have the resources to execute the budget, so you freeze it. You can't issue a spending commitment and pay an expense because the money doesn't exist. How does the government respond to this situation? The government responds by increasing expenses for the election and trying to raise taxes to pay for those expenses. That's not a solution. The country needs to increase revenue, the revenue base. Not by raising taxes, but if possible, by lowering taxes, because that's what makes the country unviable. There is an ongoing capital flight and an exodus of tax residents. Do you want an explanation for this wave of bankruptcies, for example? Raisin, a major logistics and energy company,
Went bankrupt. Listen up. I've already made videos about several of those he's mentioning and have explained this for years, like the army issue. Ennis was saying this while he was still alive. Look, our armed forces are run down. Look, this was done on purpose. We can't handle it. Forget about trouble. That's it. Everyone already knows we can't handle even an hour of conflict. The basic function of the army, they can't even do that, which is to patrol our borders. The amount of drugs and weapons coming in is no joke. That's on purpose. High-ranking generals keep getting their money, their millionaire salaries every month, right? Now the drills, the training, the development of projects to actually protect the national territory, that, my brother, has been at a standstill for many decades. And as Dr. Aeneas already said, it was one of the PT's great trump cards, right? Now, why is that, right? Think for yourself. Moving on.
Rumo, which is the logistics branch of this company, is being sold to the Chinese. You have Pão de Açúcar. Who would have thought it would go bankrupt? But it did. You have default rates rising, both for companies and for individuals. You also still have, right, an interest rate of 14-15% per year. Zero investment. This week I saw in the newspapers that Lupo, which is a traditional factory, has already moved to Paraguay. It went to Paraguay. Others are going to Paraguay. There are lines of Brazilians. The companies that went to China, Tramontina went to China, W-Egg went to China. That other bus body company from Randon? No, from Caxias. It went to China. In other words, companies are looking for their own path. And here, the ones making money illegally are institutions like Banco Master. These are the people who make money. The bank has become an instrument, no longer to promote investment or lend to finance it. But it's a derivatives factory, making money off paper assets. The country can't survive this way. The country can only achieve fiscal adjustment through revenue. Exactly. Through revenue, by stimulating economic growth and development, not by raising taxes. If you raise taxes, you'll have two immediate consequences. The first is default, because the business owner would rather pay his employee than pay taxes. If he tries to do both, he risks bankruptcy and becoming unviable. And that's what's happening in Brazil. So I think Brazil's future under this government looks difficult. It's literally rock bottom, right? But does Brazil have a solution, Aldo? A full solution. Brazil has it. Nature was very generous with Brazil. It was beyond generous. God gave Brazil what he didn't give to any other country in the world. You have the largest agricultural frontier in the world. And when the world faces the challenge of food security, no country in the world is as prepared to offer food security as Brazil. That's right, none. No country has the capacity to produce protein, to produce food, to produce grains like Brazil does. So, that's our first great advantage. And that's the world's first concern. Food security. Humanity has known this for 30 or 40 years. Television, I don't know, 60, 70 years. Cars, 100 years. Aviation, I don't know, 70, 80 years. Food security has existed since humanity began, and it's 3 times a day. Humanity has already lived without these things. Humanity has only never lived without eating and having daily meals, and there's only one activity in the world that guarantees this. It's agriculture and livestock farming. There isn't another one. Factories can make anything, but food must come from the countryside. The second thing the world needs is energy. Trump came here to Venezuela. There are a lot of people who say it was about democracy. What democracy? No country has overthrown more democracies than the United States. It was never about democracy, just oil. That's oil. War over there in Iran. Why is that? Because they're Calvinists and the Iranians are Muslims. No, that's not the reason. Some Muslim countries like Saudi Arabia have strong ties with the United States. Exactly. It's about oil, not religion. Oil. So, it's the pursuit of oil. And here we have oil and we disregard oil. In the Amazon, according to Eletrobras, the conditions are there. I'm citing the source because it can even be checked in my book about the Amazon. Eletrobras plan to double energy generation with 7 or 8 more hydroelectric plants in the Amazon, all of them blocked. The Amazon is an energy powerhouse, Luan, because you have a basin, a plain surrounded by 2 plateaus, the Central Plateau, and on the other side, the Guiana Plateau or the Guiana Massif. From the Guiana Plateau, the rivers flow down towards the plain, forming waterfalls and rapids. From the Central Plateau, in the same way, the Madeira River between Porto Velho and the border with Bolivia has 19 waterfalls.
Wow.
It's an energy powerhouse. Everything is blocked and forbidden, while China builds the world's largest hydroelectric plant atop Tibet at 4,000 meters. China, whose rivers, compared to Brazilian rivers, are small streams compared to ours. If you compare these rivers in China with the Amazon River, with the Madeira River, with the Purus, with the Xingu, with the Tapajos, with the Rio Negro, these rivers can't compare to the ones in the Amazon. Everything is blocked and stopped. So Brazil has oil that starts here in the Pelotas Basin and goes all the way to Amapá. 7,500 kilometers of coastline where you have oil all blocked. The equatorial margin starts in Rio Grande do Norte and goes all the way to Amapá. And you have hydroelectric energy, you have biomass energy, biodiesel energy, you have ethanol from corn and sugarcane. Yes, you have wind energy, you have solar energy. Brazil has every kind of energy. It's the most diversified energy mix in the world, blocked by IBAMA, FUNAI, and the Public Prosecutor's Office, because they think it threatens the environment. They don't think it's poverty that threatens the environment, that it's the lack of basic sanitation that threatens the environment. They think what threatens the environment is development. So you have energy, and a third element that can provide for Brazil's future of prosperity. It's the mineral frontier. It's the rare earths. In the age of rare earths, Brazil is the country of rare earths, and the Amazon is the rare earth region. Brazil has rare earths throughout its entire territory. Down in southern Minas, there are rare earths in that quadrilateral stretching from Poços de Caldas to Andradas. The government is even planning or has already made an extensive visit to this rare earth area. Rare earths in the Triângulo Mineiro, rare earths in Goiás, rare earths in Roraima, rare earths in Pará, rare earths in Rondônia. There are rare earths all over Brazil. Now all of this is blocked. A mine that Brazil managed to legalize over there in Goiás. The Americans paid $14 billion. First, they put in $600 million to increase production, and then $2.5 billion to buy it. A company whose main shareholder is the Pentagon. Man, it's not a private company. The shareholder is the Pentagon. They're the shareholder. And Brazil is wasting it. We could have 200 mines like these operating. But there are no resources. Wasting, shutting down. No, guys, we need to change this script.
I see that Brazil is very concerned with small things, sometimes with pronouns. He is elo de lo. But with important things, Aldo, I don't see that concern. I don't see politicians talking about what you're talking about. That Brazil has this potential, and it is underestimated. Why do you think there's a lack of interest?
Among politicians in general, Luan? This story is difficult and it's old. In the 70s, in 1972, they published a document in Rome whose title is, "This is also on the internet." I say it's on the internet because anyone can look it up. It's called The Limits to Growth. This document was authored by an institution called the Club of Rome. Yes, what is the essence of this document? To say that the planet had reached its limit, that it could no longer support development, that it would collapse. Nature could no longer withstand development. Now, what is the observation? It could no longer withstand the development of those who had not yet developed. For those who had already developed, it was fine. There was no threat at all. So, a forum was needed to legitimize it. Because it was a private document from companies with technocrats and academics. They called a UN conference to discuss the environment. It was the first Stockholm conference. It was the military government. The government appointed a highly respected diplomat to lead our delegation, Ambassador Araújo Castro. He had been foreign minister under João Goulart. And even though he had been a minister in a deposed government, he was spared. He was not removed, and he became Brazil's ambassador to the UN. And he had a very serious clash with the American ambassador at that conference, who was also a statesman, a very well-prepared man. He was a United States Senator, Ambassador Patrick Moynihan. And Ambassador Araújo Castro, he said the following: "This is not the environment. This is something else. You turn. Freeze the world's military power." And how did they freeze military power? With the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty? Because what is the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty? The nuclear weapons of the powerful countries, the powers, which are the United States, England, France, Russia, the Soviet Union at the time, and China. These nuclear weapons do not threaten world peace. It's your nuclear weapons that will threaten. Therefore, you cannot have nuclear weapons. And then he said, when you approve this agreement, this non-proliferation treaty, to freeze military power, because you establish superiority over the other countries that have nuclear weapons and over those that don't. Do you think that if Japan had nuclear weapons, the United States would have dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Guys.
No. Now look, family, he's saying this now, right? How many times have we heard here in several videos, including ones I've made and so many others, with Aeneas saying that this was a humiliation, right? That we were subjected to it, okay, right? That I'm against a nation like Iran having them. But nations like most of those in Mercosur had that right? It was a right even to guarantee that the country wouldn't be invaded, but no, it can't, right? And Aeneas was radically against this. And now you see in 2026, are you hearing the same thing? Sometimes I post a video of Aeneas here, and someone says, let the guy rest in peace. You keep bringing him up all the time, man, but he's never been so relevant, man. Yeah, we could even make a comparison here, show Aeneas saying this, and then you see someone saying it now. Aeneas was saying this back in 1980 and even before that.
There is a program aimed at subjecting all Latin American countries, including Brazil, to the command of the United States of America, putting an end to our people's self-determination. This is about the Inter-American Dialogue, which was signed by both candidates who present themselves as if they were opponents. In fact, they are together conspiring against Brazil. They are true traitors to the country. Whichever of them is elected will take another step that could be decisive for the loss of national sovereignty. We will lose our oil, our Amazon region, our mineral wealth, and we will no longer be a free people.
It's a solution, my brother. It's a solution, just so we can understand a little bit of what's happening. Why do these nations want us in this position of submission? It's very simple. Those of us who like cars, I'm sure many of you like them too. Let me give you an example. Imagine you know that a guy in a certain area has a pristine Maverick V8. No one has driven the car. It's just stored there. For you to buy this car, it would be better if the guy who owns it now, whether he's rich or poor, you want to buy the guy's car, it's your dream to buy his car. Is it better if he's a millionaire, a trillionaire, or a very humble person who doesn't even know the value of the car? Speaking, right, not as a human being, but for business, saying that you want to buy, it's obvious that it's better if he's poor. Why? You'll buy it for less or for a small amount and he'll accept. Some guys here, my brother, have done really well. Including by doing this, he would go to farms looking for these popular cars that are famous today. For example, the Square Gold GTI, the Gold Bola GTI, and also the Opala. The other day, he bought an SS for just over 20,000 reais, right? A car that, once it's ready, people are asking 200,000 for it, and that's how he does it. On farms that are hard to get to, farms where you need to go in a 4x4. Then he gets there. In a barn, there's the car, right? The family members have no idea. They're all clueless. They don't even imagine how much it's worth. He goes and buys it cheap. Just imagine a wreck like that, all rusty, flat tires. The guy arrives and offers 20,000 rees. The country guy freaks out, my brother, right? And this example I'm giving is us Brazilians, right? It's exactly like that. They want an underdeveloped country with crises, needing money, right? Because then they offer, look, we're going to invest this small amount in exchange for you approving this or that. For us, it's a deal, my brother. It's a deal, unfortunately. Okay, continuing here. Yeah, look, of course.
Of course not, you know? So you turn the rest of humanity into hostages of the 5 countries that have nuclear weapons. And then Ambassador Araujo Castro reasoned as follows and said, you froze military power and now you want to freeze economic power. And how do you freeze economic power? Whoever developed, developed. Whoever didn't develop won't be able to develop anymore because the planet can't take it. The planet can handle your development, only theirs. They can burn coal as much as they want. They can do anything, that's fine. And we can't do anything. Then he says, and there's a third consequence. Since we won't be able to develop anymore because our development threatens the environment, what do we do with our natural resources?
Hand them over to them.
We provide them to you because you can use natural resources because your development doesn't threaten the environment. Ours is what threatens it. He said, this is unacceptable.
Hey kid, doesn't it seem like those guys who say, oh, only other people's armpits stink, not mine, right? And his is pure stink, but only others stink, right? Pure stink.
Others stink. This climate conference will only happen if there are 2 agendas, environmental protection and the right to development. Without that, forget it. And he went to work with African countries and Asian countries on an agenda that included both items. And he imposed the most well-known diplomatic defeat on the United States and Western Europe. He said, no, you are not going to do this. But after that 1972 conference, and after Ambassador Araujo Castro stopped being a diplomat, Brazil abandoned the development agenda. And it ended up with that gathering in Belém, which was that climate conference in December, November of last year, which I attended, and that was an embarrassment.
And Lula, right family, yeah, is always in favor of that in his speeches. And unfortunately, you don't see anyone nowadays insisting on that anymore. And that's what's so hard for us to change. Anyway, my brothers, I'll leave the link for you to watch. There's a lot of topics there, okay? It's worth watching the whole thing. It's almost 2 hours, like I said, but every minute is worth it. Unfortunately, my brothers, that's it. Yeah, I don't see anyone these days, right? In politics today who even has a third of the proposals that Aeneas had, which really weren't just political proposals, they were actual solutions to the existing problems. Our situation is complicated, but anyway, right? I think one of the ways to change this is by spreading information like this, right? So if you don't want to share our video, if you don't like Davey, share Tubecasts, right? I'll put the link in the description. Watch it with your friend. If you don't share this, just watch the original video. All right, my brothers, God bless you. Take care. And remember, we'll only make any difference, at least for future generations, if we're aware of what's happening. Take care. God bless you. I'm out. Take care. God bless you.